Well, hey everybody. So good to see everybody on here. Thanks so much for joining us. We're really excited to announce this is our first Maker Night, and I know it's mid-afternoon, but we're just sticking with the regular brand. We're going to be doing a number of these kinds of events, and the whole goal for these is to just get everyone back connected together, doing making and exploring different aspects of making. Almost like we're having nicer. Almost like we're having a makerspace here online through Zoom. So hoping that you guys will stay connected with us and that we'll be able to put on lots more of these. The content will change all the time, and we'll make sure that you know a lot about what's going on and that you have all the tools and resources you might need. I'm really excited about this event today and having the chance to work with students again. So thank you again. You'll probably hear kids in the background of some of us, and for everybody, as this is our first Maker Night, we're just, hopefully you'll be patient with us as we work through this, and we're learning alongside you. So we're aiming to make this the best use of your time, and it will be fun. So I'll turn it over to Virginia Barlow. I'm excited to introduce our Makerspace coordinator. She is all things making, a huge background in creativity and innovation. She's an integral part of our team. And when we had the Makerspace in e-building that we were allowed to attend, she ran those operations there and made it the most amazing space you could hang out in my opinion. So we're going to do that again virtually, and I'll turn it over to Virginia to share more information about herself and kick off the Maker Night. And you'll also see Jenna Green up in the corner here. She's our events and promotions coordinator, and you'll get lots of emails from her over the course of the summer around Maker events, and also an awesome resource. So reach out to her if you think that if you need anything at all. I should just do one little plug for the Henry Burnick Entrepreneurship Center. So I'm Sarah, and I'm the director of the center, and our goal is to help Georgian College students start and grow businesses. So if you have a business idea, especially now that we're kind of hanging out a little bit more in isolation, some people are finding there's lots of ideas percolating to the top. If you have a business idea that you want to talk to us about, we would love to give you help with that in terms of giving you access to resources and some mentorship and maybe some programming, and let's explore those ideas and see where we can take them. So feel free to reach out to us anytime, and have an awesome afternoon with Virginia.
Thanks, Sarah. So, hey guys, I'm Virginia Barlow. I am the Makerspace coordinator at Georgian College. Soon we will be back in our really awesome space as it's being rebuilt for us. But for now, as Sarah said, that we're going to be doing these really awesome online Maker Nights, and we're going to try a whole bunch of different avenues. Some of them are going to be creative ones, some of them are going to be coding ones. Feel free to put any suggestions that you guys have for Maker Nights into the chat, and we'll see if we can either find someone to be able to do it for us, or if we're able to, if I can do it myself, which is kind of what I've been doing for most of our Maker Nights, is I will make sure that I will be able to learn something for you, to be able to teach you the basics, and then we try to explore those possibilities with the other brains in the house. So I'm really excited. We've got, I guess, 18 participants today, so that's really awesome. That's about the size of our regular Maker Nights, and I'm really excited to get started. So I'm glad that everybody has their microphones muted. If you don't, and you could, that would be great. Just to make it so that it's easier, so that there's no background noises coming through, which I'll just post in the chat as well. And if anybody has questions, at the bottom of your screen, you will see reactions. So you can either clap or give a thumbs up, or if you're really enjoying it, feel free to clap and thumbs up, all sorts. This is my office, my cool little podcasting studio that I've been working with. And I'm excited to get this Maker Night started for you. So tonight we are going to be doing SVG animation using HTML and CSS. Has anybody done that before? No, yes, awesome. Okay, so we're going to be basic, yes, but that was 2 years ago. Awesome. Well, we are just going to go over the basics today, and then at the end we'll have a little SVG to play with, and I'm going to get you guys to share your screens and show me what you're able to build with just some of the very simple techniques that we're going to learn today. So I've built some SVGs, and we're just going to go over some simple rules and little things just at the beginning here, just to get started. So SVG animation using HTML and CSS, the basics. So I hope everyone is doing great tonight, or I guess today during the afternoon. It's a great day out, and I'm really glad that you guys are able to join me. So before we get started, I just wanted to make sure that you guys had some things prepared. So I want you guys to have your IDEs open, and I will be using the atom.io, so I will show it to you guys in just a second. Which is this guy right here. So this is going to be the code editor that I'm using, which is atom.io. It has a really great feature which enables you to be able to just click this little dot down here, and that copies your link, so that if we wanted to see what this was, we'd be able to go back to our Chrome, paste it in there, and as you can see, there's a giant circle, because that is all that is in the in our index right now. So if you guys want to wave your hands or give me thumbs up or message into the chat to let me know that you have your IDEs open, and we will get started. Perfect. So some of the rules of the makerspace is we're going to be kind to each other. We're going to use the chat for questions. Our goal is to just learn something new, something fun. We're going to have fun, hopefully, and we're going to meet some new people. So it's great if you guys want to chat in the chat and say hi. If you guys have been, oh good, I'm glad somebody else likes using Atom as well. I really enjoy it. I've used it with ladies learning code quite often, so it's a really good platform to use. So basically, makerspace rules, just be excellent to each other. So we can get started with some concepts and definitions. So these are some things that you probably have heard of in your computer programming classes already. So you would have heard of a vector file, most likely. So that's a file, images that are built on mathematical formulas so that they can be scaled to pretty much any size. And you'll see that happen when we go to write our CSS for our bouncing ball. The SVG is a scalable vector graphic, so it's based in XML, which is extensible markup language, basically a language that can be used, can be seen and read by both humans and computers. Then we have HTML, which is the basic HTML, so hypertext markup language. It's the standard markup for web pages. Then we have cascading style sheets. So that's where we're actually going to tell the HTML what it's going to do. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, okay. Excellent. Okay, so I've taken some time to find some fun little examples for us. Yes, VS Code will be fine too, yes. As long as you can have an index file, you'll just open your files within your VS Code, and you'll just open up the main file, which is CSS and HTML animation. And you should be able, as long as you can open those package files, it'll be fine. So I've got some CSS tricks, some artificial design, and W3 Schools. W3 Schools is probably my favorite one to use when I'm looking to give myself some extra information on something that I'm building. So if I want to make something that I'm doing with a web page extra cool, I'll go to W3 Schools and look up what I want to try. So if I want to try a new hover, or if I want to try something new with graphics, it can show you really simply and gives you some examples really nicely. So we'll go over some CSS tricks first, which is a nice little website that I found. So he's done some animations. This is an example here. I'll let it load up for you guys. So Wufoo, the online form builder, it's fast. So all of this was done with SVG. So it gives you some information here, how to sort of design an ad if you're going to be working for someone, or same idea if you're going to be designing something for yourself or for a school project. And I will post all of these into the chat here, so that if you want to look at them later, you will be able to do that. And then we have artificial design as well, which I found was very helpful. So it's really, really basic, getting to understand how to export, how to build an SVG to send it. And it shows you the heights, and basically this written format right here is what an SVG looks like when it's in code, which we're about to see once we jump into our first bouncing ball. And then obviously the last one, which is CSS animations with W3 schools. So as you can see, CSS allows animation of HTML elements without the use of JavaScript or Flash. I myself love JavaScript, but it's fun to know how to do things, and it's interesting to know how to do things. If you don't know how to use JavaScript, it's fun to know how to do something very simple and make something, you know, roll over or change its size or direction. So we will be talking about keyframes, and I will post this as well. Okay. So is everybody ready to start bouncing a ball? There's an animation on there. I did that. So when you go to open your first project in Atom, you will be going to File, Open Folder. Okay. If you're opening it, I would open it this way. So go to Open Folder and open your main CSS and HTML animation. That will say Animation Students there. And then open that whole folder. So once you open that the whole folder, it will give you the access to the rest of the files that are in that folder. Right, so we're going to start with a question. When we want to tell our HTML what to do, and we're going to be using our style sheets, does anybody know what the most important part is to do? So the most important thing is that we have to link our style sheet that we have. Yes, so link to the style sheet and put that into our index here. So it goes into the header section. As you can see, I've also added a title, which is just bouncing a ball. You can change that title to whatever you like. Yeah, so you'd have to download the zip folder and then unzip it in order to get to the rest of the files. Or you can just make your own CSS folder in Atom like this. Just create a new folder. We call that CSS. So I already have one, CSS2. So you can create your own folder, and then inside that folder, create your own file. And that will just be what we're calling it, which is style sheet. .css because the CSS sheets don't have any information in them. The only sheets that have information is just the index. And that's just the basic HTML form information. Move to trash. Okay, so we have our handy dandy index here. And as you can see right here, the SVG is already in there. So I've added this one into our document type here. And now we are going to work on our style sheet. The first thing that we have to do is we have to figure out what we're trying to access. So our goal is to make that ball that you saw bounce up and down. So the first thing we need to do is select that. So what we're going to do is instead of using this ID, we're actually going to make a class. And if you're using Atom, you can just hit enter there and it will fill out the rest. And I'm going to call mine ball-bounce. And then we're gonna save that. So Control S or Command S is gonna be your favorite thing in the world right now. So our style sheets. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to access our class that we just built. So does anybody know what we use to access a class in CSS? Yes, it is the period. Perfect, that's awesome, guys. So we're gonna fill out that. And then obviously our happy little mustaches. Yes, I'm going to call them mustaches for the entire day. So let's think of how big we want this ball to be. Do we want the ball to be like 10 million pixels? Do we want to keep it as large as it was here? So right now our ball is this big. That seems a little too large. So if that's going to be too large, what we're going to do is change the height. I think a nice height will probably be about 500 pixels. So we're going to say height. And then we're going to tell it how much, 500 pixels. And save that. So Brad, I'm just going to show you one thing. We're just going to go through this one more time. So on your file, if you have your index and you can access the index, create a folder, either called bouncing ball. And then you're going to create a folder inside that. So we're going to click new folder. And we're going to give our folder a name. What I've named the folder is just CSS. So I have to call this CSS2 for now because, so that's a folder. And then inside that folder, right click and create a file. And then call that your style sheet. And then you should be able to access it beyond that. .css. Just give me 1 second, guys. I'm just going to pause. So somebody's just having a little bit of trouble here. So just one last thing that someone's having trouble opening the folder. So I'm just going to show this one more time. So it's File, Open Folder. Make sure that you go to your main folder. So that might, if it's in your downloads, I would probably move it to my desktop. That's where I throw things that I'm just using for, 20 minutes or so. But you need to open it through this main folder and then select that folder to open. So once you select that folder, it should open as a cascade. So if you have your height set and your ball bounce, we can come down to this little corner in the left-hand side on your index, and you're going to click on that, and it's going to automatically copy if you're using atom.io, which is fantastic. And that's this right here. That's that link, which just basically is on your own desktop. And we're going to refresh this. And as you can see, it has now changed to being a 500 by 500 pixel ball. Does everybody have a 500 by 500 pixel ball? So go back to our style sheets here. And we're going to add our next option. So we're going to define the keyframes, and we're going to basically define what our animation is going to be called and what it's going to do. So we're going to access something called @keyframes. And I've just decided to call this bounce because that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be bouncing the ball. And then happy little mustaches, and we're going to leave our little space there. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose a point in time, and you guys can choose your own point in time. I'm going to choose 20%. So this is whereabouts in the animation is going to start happening once we give it time and once we tell it how long it's going to continue for. So we're going to give it happy little mustaches again, and we're going to use something called transform. So we're going to use one of two things depending on what we're doing. So we're going to use translate Y and translate X in these next two exercises. So it's either going to cause the ball to move up and down or left and right, depending on what axis we're accessing. So if we access transform, and you see we get a whole bunch of options here. What we're going to do now is we're going to find translate, and we're going to use, let's try translate X first and see what happens with that. But as you can see here within the ellipses, it's asking for something. So what I've decided to say is this is going to be so many pixels. Let's say 90 for now. And we can save that. So we've decided on an X or a Y and how it's going to move. The next thing we need to do is call our animation. Just like you would be calling a function when you're working in JavaScript, we're going to call on our keyframes animation that we just made and tell it what it's going to be doing. So we need to access the animation name. And because we've just named our animation bounce, we'll use bounce. We also need to decide how long the animation is going to be running for. So what we're going to do for that is we're going to be, again, go under animation, and we're going to do animation duration. So this is going to be the length of time that it takes the animation to start and finish. So let's say like, what, 5 seconds? We got 5 seconds there. Now, the final thing that we need to define is going to be how long the animation is going to continue for. So it wouldn't be very fun if our ball only bounced once. So I vote that we just make it an infinite amount. Yes, Yes, there will be a recording. I just got a message. We are recording this, so you will be able to watch it later as well. And we're also going to be doing another one of these next week. So we've got our next portion here that we need to do is animation iteration count. So that's going to be how long the animation is going to go on for. So we can pop down here, as you can see, animation iteration count. You can just hit enter on that, and it pre-populates with an infinite, which is great. So, do you think that we have enough information here to make the ball bounce or move? You can do thumbs up with the reactions, or you can type into the chat. It's up to you guys. Yeah? All right, so if we go back to our web browser here and we refresh, well, we don't have it bouncing, but we definitely have it moving. So I suppose when I chose translate X, I chose the wrong direction. So we're going to use translate Y to make sure it goes on the correct axis. So if we change this translate X into a translate Y, and then go back to our web browser, there we go. Our ball is now bouncing, but it's bouncing pretty slowly. So we can change the animation duration to make it bounce faster. And we can also change when in the sequence of the bounce in the keyframes here for how long. And if you guys would like to try changing a few of these and let me know what you get, or if you want to show them by sharing your screen, you can see what you've gotten your ball to do. So this is what mine looks like. So it's bouncing up and down, up and down. Did anybody else get their ball to bounce? Awesome, that's great. So if your ball is not bouncing, we'll go back to our index and we'll make sure that we added in the class inside our SVG. Yes, you can also change the shape of the ball as well. So there are some things in the view box that you can do to change the shape and size of the ball. You can also add extra styles to it, and you can change the color of the ball here, or you can choose to change the color of the ball inside your CSS. Okay, so if your ball is not bouncing and the size did not change, then you probably are missing the class inside your index.html. It should have worked. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that we have our ball bounce and that our style sheets are linked. So if you don't have the link here in your HTML, in your index, then you need to add that in. Brad, we can work on it later. If you can't get them to work, we can work on them later and at the end of the class. So our next goal is going to be accessing a part of an SVG. So the next SVG that we're going to open, we can close these guys, and we're going to open our eye movement folder. So we're going to close this guy up, and we're going to open our eye movement folder. We don't need this, and we don't need that. What we do need is the index, which when you open it, you'll see that there's just a line here that says this is where the SVG will go. So our SVG images that I have given you guys are in this side folder here. So you will see a ball. That's what a ball looks like. The eyes are what we're going to be using in this one. So what we'll need to do is we're just going to take this whole set of code and we're going to copy and paste that. And we're going to place it inside our index, just underneath this little note right here, and paste that in and then save it. So let me know when you guys go to your SVG images dropdown, open up the eyes, copy and paste, and we'll place that directly into our HTML. Excellent. You see the creepy eyes. This is excellent. So I'm just going to copy here and go here. Let me just minimize this guy. All right, so we've got a set of creepy eyes. So what we're going to do is we're going to make these little creepy eyes shift around and move because we have the ability to do that. So if we go to our SVG for the eyes and have placed it into our index, we'll notice where the SVG is. I'm going to tab that over. You'll see that it's got an ID up here, but down here, it's got a couple classes. And then as you can see here, we have a right eye, which is an ID, and a left eye, which is an ID. So the right eye is a group, as you can see this little G. So it's a group which holds the blue part and the black part. So that's like the center of our eyes. And those are the parts that we want to tell to move back and forth. So the first thing that I'm going to do is open up the CSS, which is just an empty style sheet like the last one. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make those eyes a little bit smaller. So I'm going to call on them. Give our little happy mustaches. And I'm just going to give it, once again, a height of 500 pixels because it keeps it all on the screen and you're able to look at it that way. So I'm going to save that. Save the index. And just make sure that somewhere in here, which we don't have yet, which we have to add in. So if I'm going to call on a class of eyes, where should I place that? Within the SVG. So I'm going to place it right beside this area here that says ID equals layer 1. And I'm just going to do what I did with the last one and add a class. And I'm going to call it eyes. And then I'm going to save that. And when we head back here and refresh, our eyes are small. So has everyone been able to add a class and shrink their eyeballs? Or you can, make them whatever size you like. Make them maybe 1,000. Small, but still creepy. Yes. I had another SVG that I had a whole face and it was a very creepy face and I had his eyebrows going up and down. But I'll show you how we can work on something like that shortly after. So he's got nice big eyeballs now. He's 1,000 pixels. Oh, okay, so the eye movement index. Okay, so the really, really easy way to catch up on that one. Our index, that's the wrong index. That's the bouncing ball. Okay, so our index here. So the way we got all of this information for the index from here to here is we went to the SVG images folder and then clicked on the eyes SVG. So when you click on that, that's where we get all that code for. So that is the code that is the eyes. That is the eyes as a bunch of code. So all of the turns, all of the curves and everything are there. And this is letting you know whereabouts it is. This is your radius. You should have your eyes SVG from the SVG folder, and then we copy and paste that into our index just below where it says this is where the SVG will go. So once we have that, we added our class, which was eyes, so class of eyes. And then when we go into our CSS folder, we have given the eyes a height of 1000, and that's all we've done so far. So we've got smaller eyes, but still creepy, which is perfect. So as you noticed from the index, we have an ID for the right eye and an ID for the left eye. So when I was building the SVGs in Illustrator, I labeled these and gave them their names. So they already have their names coded to them prior to getting them into this format, into the code format. So that's all been written when I built the SVGs. So we're gonna access these IDs. We want to make sure that we can have our left eye maybe go this way while the right eye is going that way. Maybe we'll do cross eyes. But it's going to be one step at a time. So we're going to go back to our style sheets. And we're going to do some how about we start with our keyframes again? Because we're doing shifty eyes, as you can see here, once you select keyframes, it gives you something called identifier. So that's what we're calling our animation. So I'm just going to call our animation shift, S-H-I-F-T. I'm going to save that. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through the same thing that we did with the ball. We're going to move it either on a translate X, a translate Y, using the transform. But what we're going to do with this one is add in a few more steps. So let's start at 20%. And we'll use transform. And then we're going to use the translate. And we are going to translate on X because that's the one that makes it go side to side as we checked with the ball. And we're going to tell it how far it's going to move. So we can let's try -10 pixels. We can save that. So just like we did last time, we're going to have to go through the 3 steps. We're going to decide whether or not we want to focus on the eyes themselves. But as you know, the eyes themselves include the outer spheres as well. So if we just want the inside of the eyes to work, then we're going to have to focus on just capturing the IDs of the left eye and the right eye. So if we're capturing an ID, does anybody know what we use to capture an ID? Hashtag, yes. Good job, guys. So we're going to use our hashtag. And let's say right eye, left eye, left eye. Give ourselves happy little mustaches. And we need to access the animation. There's 3 things that we need to look at now that we just used in our last CSS sheet. So there's going to be what it's called, which is the name, how long it's going to run for, and what is the duration of the actual animation. So I guess we will go with animation name starting. And we've named our animation shift or whatever you have called it. Then we need to know the animation duration, so how long it's going to go for. And if I'm going too fast for anybody, just let me know. So let's say 2 seconds. And then how long the animation itself is going to run for. So after 2 seconds is done, does it stop or does it keep going infinitely? And since we want to make really creepy shifty eyes, I think we'll have to have it on infinite as well. So that's down here. Animation, iteration count, and infinite. Perfect. So just with this, we are able to open our index. I'm just going to copy this right here. We've got our eyeballs. We're refreshing. So we've accessed the left eye right now. So your left eye should be moving weird. Do we have a left eye moving? It is. Awesome. So now that we've got one eyeball moving, we can just, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this whole left eye animation information. I'm going to paste it, and instead of left eye, I'm going to use the right eye. So if you copy and paste your left eye and change it to right eye, should be able to get 2 of them going. So accessing that, now we can add a few more things to our keyframes. So let's say we've got that transforming. How about we go at 50% of the animation, in the middle of the animation? Let's do something fun and we'll translate Y. So maybe it's going to look up a little bit. We'll use 10% as well. I like a good negative 10%. And instead of translate X, we'll translate Y. And we'll say negative 10px. Save that. And then once we come here, you'll be able to make the eyes look around and then stare deeply into your soul and be very creepy. And that's not all. We can have them go again, let's say at 80%. 80% sound good? More happy little mustaches. I'm just going to copy this right here. Paste it down, and let's just do a positive 10 pixels, because that negative 10 pixels will shift it one way, and positive 10 pixels will shift it the other way. So we have some shifty eyes. Yes, yes. So the percent is used to access the interval of an animation time. Exactly. So basically, the whole animation time is 100%. And yes, you're completely right, Supreet. Do you guys want to, I can stop sharing my screen and you could show me that you guys have your eyes moving if you like. So if you want to share your screen and show off your eyeballs moving, you can hit the share screen button at the bottom and then choose which screen you want to show. I believe I have it enabled for, sure. And Brad, if you're having trouble, if you want to share your screen, we can do some troubleshooting. But everybody's going to see. Awesome. Okay, so we have no movement on Brad's eyes. How can we help Brad out? Okay, so Brad, the reason why it's not working is if you look at your file. Oh no, that should be working. Mine says the same thing. Let's see your code in Atom. Yeah, let's see code. Yeah, see, let's see who figures it out first. Exactly, now it's a game. So Brad, you might have to close this shared screen and then open a new shared screen on your atom.io. Ah, look at that. Way to go, Ivan. That's awesome. So if you guys go to view options, you can switch between screens and you can see what's going on. All right, so we've got dot eyes, we've got our right eye. So your left eye and your right eye need capitalization. So capital L, capital E, perfect. And then when you go to keyframes down here, get rid of the first A, at sign, and try that. So you have to save it and then refresh your. Yes, so if you want to do a random number for it to move, you have to put in a function for the random number generator sort of thing. I did see that on, I don't think it was W3 Schools, it was one of the Skillshare things that I was watching, and they managed to have it just like do whatever, but kept within a bounds. All right, Brad, is it working? Okay, so for our final thing tonight, which I thought would be fun, was I built a cute little guy. Oh, no, so right now, Brad, all that we can see is your code still. So you'd have to drop what screen you're sharing and then share the other screen.
Can you see it now?
Let's see here. I'm gonna stop my share. Hey, there you go.
Glad you liked it. Now it's just the first exercise, the bouncing ball, that I need help with, but I'll let you move on with the lesson.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm so glad you got this, Brad. This is great.
Thanks.
Okay. So our next cool thing that we're going to do is we're going to work on walking. So I'll share my screen again. So we're going to work on something that I was working on, and it's not the best. I will show you my finished one. That I was working on. So it's not the most beautiful or graceful walk, but he is a little guy and he is moving. We did a little rotate there. It's not the best, but it's learning the basics and using them. So we're gonna learn how to take a walk. So our next scene, let's open the third package, and we're gonna play with some animating. We're gonna try to make this little guy walk. So I'll show you how I did it, and then you guys can play around with the numbers and change things about him. How does that sound? You can do little thumbs up or clap hand signs or whatever you like. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna close this style sheet and this index, and we're gonna open the folder that says walking. So as you can see, once again, we do not have our SVG in here yet, but we will go down to our SVG images. We're going to click on Blue Guy SVG. And as you can see, he has a lot more parts than our last guy did. But what he does also have is he has IDs for everything. So his nose has an ID, his nostril has an ID, his eye has an ID, his mouth has an ID. Everything has an ID. So if you want to make him walk and have his eyebrows going up and down, you can access that and do that yourself. So we're going to copy and paste, just like we did with the last one. We're going to paste that right in here. We're going to save it. Copy our file destination. Go back to Chrome. And this is our little guy. So this is what we have to work with. So he's pretty big right now. We'll probably shrink him down. And we're going to use the same techniques that we just used to make a ball bounce and to make eyes look back and forth to make this guy look like he's walking. But in order to do that, we're going to have to access a few objects of his body, like his arms and his legs. If you want to make his hair look like it's waving back and forth in the wind, feel free to do that as well. I had a lot of fun playing with some simple animations with him. So we'll open our CSS, which is once again a complete blank CSS sheet. And we're going to think about the things that we want to access. So first thing that I want to access is I want to make him smaller. So if I go to my index and I look at my SVG, I can see that I have already made it so that he has an ID of blue guy. So we can access the ID in our style sheet with our hashtag. There we go. Happy mustaches. And we can make some changes here. So we'll make him smaller. We'll change his height. And I think I'll give him some padding to the top. And we'll give him just 100 pixels of padding there. Okay. Okay, so we've accessed the blue guy. Now the next thing we want to look at is we want to move his front arm and his back arm. We want to move his front leg and his back leg. So we're going to go ahead and access all of those pieces just like we did. We'll use his front arm. And add mustaches to that. And then his back arm. His back leg in there as well. And then of course his front leg as well. Cool, okay, so we've decided on all the things that we want to access for now until we grow bigger. Chat, where's the chat? Come up. The chat's not popping up for me. I'm sorry guys if I'm missing out on anything. There we go, okay. Yeah, it's kind of a 3D walk, yeah. So what we're gonna do first is we have our front arm, our back leg, and our front leg. We're gonna move on to defining some animations. So let's move his legs first, or maybe we'll make him jump first, or swing his arms, walk left, walk right. So let's access some keyframes. Keyframes, our identifier for the first one that we're going to work on will be just getting him to move from one side to the other side. So let's call our identifier move then. And in this, we're going to use a couple different things. So we're going to use translate X and translate Y. And then at the end, as you saw him turn and rotate, we're going to use the rotate Y. So it's going to be a couple different things. We're going to start at 10%. And since this is an exercise where I would like you guys to be creative, if you guys would like to follow along and copy the code and then make a whole bunch of changes, I would love to see what you get him to do. So we'll start with this. Actually, if you like, I can just copy and paste some code that I already have written here right into the chat. So this is the code in the chat. If you go to the chat, you can see that I've just pasted the code that we're going to use for his movement, just to get him to walk back and forth. So you can take that and copy and paste it directly into your code. And then when we refresh here, ooh, he's not doing anything. Does anybody know why he's not doing anything, even though we just made this super awesome animation? We have to call the animation, exactly. So animation name, we're gonna call it move. Animation duration. Let's give him like, what could we say, like 10 seconds, 3 seconds? 7 seconds, let's do 7 seconds. 7 seconds, and then of course, our animation iteration count shall be infinite, so he forever walks. And when we hit Control S and we save it, we go back to our handy dandy little blue guy, and here he is moving along. So he had a little bit of a hop in there. So if you copied and pasted from the chat, you will have this guy walking and turning. So using the rotate, if you guys wanted to have a cool sign that pointed left and right, or cool new fashions this way, and have a cool sign that you use an SVG to have it flipping back and forth, you can use this rotate function and have it flip your animation back and forth. So he looks kind of like he's walking back, but not quite, because it takes a little bit more time to get him to do the perfect animation, but I just thought it would be fun to have him look like he's walking. So now that we've made the whole animation move, I think we should focus on perhaps getting him to swing his arms back and forth. So he looks like he's kind of got a march going on. So in that case, we'll access it through the front arm and the back arm, but we're gonna have to do another set of keyframes, a new animation to swing his arms. So we'll start the same way, once again, keyframes, and we'll have our identifier, which I would call swing arms. So we know that we're calling on the right thing when we go to call it back up in our front arm and our left arm. Front arm and back arm. Let's say maybe at 40%, we'll have him transform and we'll translate that on an X for the first one. Oops. Translate X. And let's say -30 pixels. And then to have his arm moving back and forth, we'll have to add a secondary percentage here, which is basically when the animation is going to happen through the 100%. Here, we'll use transform again. And we'll use translate. So these are just 2 of many different ways that you can change your SVG. These are the easiest ways that I found. Translate on a Y for a little bit so he looks like his arm's coming up. And let's give him how about we try 40 pixels first and see how that goes. And then what we have to do once again is go up to our front arm and our back arm and call the animation, which I'm probably just going to copy and paste from up here and then change the names. So instead of move, it's swing arms. Now, when we're swinging our arms, we don't necessarily move our arms at the same rate. So perhaps 7 seconds isn't a good choice, and we can maybe choose like 5 seconds and 4 seconds or something like that for the 2 separate arms, because they're going to be moving differently. So if we do that, as you can see, I just copied and pasted from the top and then changed some names. And we go back to our web browser here. As you can see, his arms are moving sort of all over the place, but at least they're moving, which is good. So they're moving up and down, and those sorts of things can be changed with, depending on what you choose your keyframes to do. So down here in our swing arms, if we chose this as a -40 instead, or if we said -80, and we saved that, you can see that it's accessing the arm, and the arms are going way, way too high. Kind of looks like he's waving, but this one arm just goes up a little bit too high. So we'll go back and we'll change that maybe just to -40 and save that. When we refresh, it looks like he's walking along. So if your arms aren't moving, we'll just check over our information here. So we have to make sure that our IDs are the same as they are written in the SVG themselves. So all of the IDs actually have capitals because that's just how I was typing. And then make sure that they're capitals here. And then once we want to swing the front and the back arm, we made a separate keyframe for those called swing arms. And then we call swing arms up here underneath the front arm and the back arm. Does anybody have any questions? Or has played with more parts of the body to make it go crazy? Sure, so if anybody's having any troubles, we can do another session where we can take a look at the shared screen. So I know Brad was having some issues. His arms aren't swinging. We've got our keyframes, swing arms. If you go up to the top, Brad, got front arms, swing arms. Oh, it should be working. Oh, you don't have an S beside your 5 and your 4. So that's defining the seconds. Mine looks like a bit like a drunk dancer. Awesome. Ivan, if you want to share your screen to show us, that would be great. Hey, Brad, we did it. That's awesome. Good job. Let's see Ivan's as well. Oh, Ivan, look at those legs. They're going all over the place. He's got some good moves there. Does anybody else want to share? If not, that's fine, but we are recording so that we can have it for later. Awesome. Look at that. Oh, look at him jump. So you can choose when you would like your animation to move by changing these percentages. So if we changed all of these to, let's say, 30% and had them all in one group, it would be a short bit of nothing, a whole bunch of movement, and then nothing. And then it would revert back to its original place on the map. So we've got some arms swinging. You guys have got some legs going. Let me just check over here. I will share my screen again. Awesome. So we can do what I would like to do is we'll do a walk left and a walk right, which are just both going to be different keyframe. So we'll just copy this little blurb. We're going to paste it below it, add that one space for readability. And don't forget to use comments. So I am obsessed with using comments. I like to make sure that all of my code is generally commented, especially when I'm trying something new. So if I'm doing, I'll show you for the ball.bounce, I will send you in the chat how I write my information. So I need to make sure how big the ball is, what is the name of the animation, how long will it play, how long will the animation go on for. So I like to give myself those things to help me remember for later. In case I want to come back to this and do something for a project, I like to come back to something that I did really simply and read it over and be like, okay, that's how I accessed that one point, because it's usually those really simple things that you'll forget when you're coding. I did a swing legs. Yes, I want to see. Everybody, let's see your stuff. Share screens. There we go. We're getting them moving along.
Yeah, it's not much movement, but you can definitely see the legs sort of hop up like he's trying to skip.
Yep. So if we're going to do another one, let's go to, Ivan's got his. Your code doesn't work, Simon. Do you want to share your code? You can share your screen and we'll take a look at it. Perfect. Okay, so we'll see Simon's perfect. All right, so we've got our blue guy. Perfect, so we got move, okay. So move. Oh, that looks good. That should be working. Rotate 130 degrees. Scroll back up to the top. Added some eyebrow movement, awesome. Have you refreshed the screen? And he's not walking. All right, back to your code. All right, scroll up to the top. That should potentially be moving. Is your CSS style sheet linked to your index? We got our style sheet.css, perfect. Got the ID, hashtag blue guy. Oh, because you have it as animation direction. So instead of animation duration, you have it as a direction. So you're trying to give it seconds to a left or a right kind of idea. So you just change the word direction into duration. Perfect. And then give it, the 2 seconds or 7 seconds or whatever it is. Save that and that should work. There's no code in front and back arm. Ooh. Okay, I'll share my screen. Screen 2. Share. Perfect. Okay, so if you're going to access the front and the back arm, as you can see here, we have front arm, and then we're calling it animation that we created, which was called swing arms. I can copy and paste these into the chat so that you can have them directly. Oh, you meant on Simon's screen. Yeah, no, he hadn't got, you got those arms. Okay, yeah, no, he was just getting to the arms afterwards. So instead of swing arms down here, I'm going to change this to walk left and walk right. So basically his left leg, we're going to control the left leg and the right leg separately so we can make it look like he's actually having a functioning walk so that he doesn't have to look like he's jumping. And that's one of the bonuses of this is that, oops. That we can access different parts of the body. So we'll do walk left, we'll just copy that, paste it again, and we'll change walk left to walk right. So we've got walk left and walk right. Obviously, these numbers are going to be the exact same ones as the swing arms, and we will change those as we go to make sure that we get a proper walk. But for now, we'll leave them as they are. We're going to come up here to our back leg and our front leg, and we're going to call on the animations. So our back leg, let's call the back leg walk right. So we're going to need to do animation name, duration, and iteration count. We need all of those. And instead, we're going to use walk left, and we're going to use walk right. It doesn't really matter which one you want to call left or right. I'm terrible with my lefts and rights, so they'll be fine either way. Instead of 4 seconds, let's make it fun and use 1.5 seconds and 2 seconds so that he's sort of got a little bit of an odd walk. When we save that and we refresh it, his legs will be moving up and down at different times. So they're moving at different times during the animation, just like the keyframes for move are moving at a different time. Does anyone want to show what they have afterwards? Or if you need me to post code, just let me know. Hey, look at his legs go. There we go. Good job. Yes. So what we've done so far to get his legs to move, I'll share my screen once again. We'll go back to screen 2 here. We've got our animation running. We'll just minimize that for now. So what we've done is we have an animation for move. So that's moving him from the right to the left of the screen. And then we made 3 more animations, which were swing arms, which we dedicated to the front and back arm. And then we made 2 more, which were walk left and walk right. Obviously, as you can see, they were just copy and pasted the same code, and we just changed the name of it. When we went to use those, walk left and walk right, we gave walk left to the back leg and walk right to the front leg, so that they're going to move at different times and different ways. So you can change how many pixels they go up and down to make it look like his legs are getting really short as he's running or walking slowly, or you can change the duration of the animation. So instead of a 7-second animation, we do a 4-second animation. And he moves much quicker. So you can change the animation duration for each piece that we've accessed. And you have a whole little body to access. So if you guys want to make his eyebrows move or make his eye move around, you could even access that little pupil that's inside of his eye and make that move around if you like. So I'll leave this code up for a few seconds here. So we have accessing the full character and getting the whole character to move, accessing a front arm, accessing a back arm, accessing the back leg, accessing the front leg. And if I had to change the colors of these, or if I would like to change the colors of these, it's all the same color here, but as you can see in our style, type CSS right here in our index, if you would like to change some colors, feel free to, this one says a fill of white, so ST6. If we look at our back arm, every path has a class. That class is associated with the style that is in there. So if the style for ST0 is 75B1BF, we could change that to something crazy, which is probably one of my favorite ones, which is BAD A55. So it's called Badass. It's one of my favorite colors. It is a hideous chartreuse, and we've given him green arms. If you guys want to show what you guys have done, feel free to share. I'll stop sharing my screen so we can take a look at what you guys have created, because I would love to see. So we can see Brad did a skipping motion, I believe he's saying. Hey, look at him go. Running all over the place.
Yeah, basically I did the walk left and walk right, but I kept the swing legs in. So it looks like he's walking and jumping.
Mm-hmm. If you look at Ivan's screen that he's sharing, you can see as he's got the eyebrow moving and he's running all over the place.
Okay, let's have a look at that.
Your skip is a really good though. That's great.
Thanks, I'm glad you think so. It's my first time, actually.
That's awesome. That's what this is all about, is just trying something new and playing around with it to see how it goes.
Wow. You know, if we play our cards right, we can make his face do some sort of face dance, you know, facial expressions, making it even more of a cartoon.
Exactly. So you can access any part of his face. You can make his nose move up and down. You can make his mouth move around. You can even change the shape of his mouth. Just shrink that. So if we look, we have a back arm, we have hair, we have a blue body, we got front leg, back eyebrow, eye. We've got our group here that's got the eye and the mouth in here. Oh, you can't see my screen. Whoops. So right here, you can see that I have a group, and I found the path for the eye as well as the path ID for the mouth. So all of these numbers here is the path as it goes. So that's the shape that it is made. So if we changed any of those things to different numbers, dashes, dots, you can change how the shape actually looks. I don't know how to do it perfectly that way, but you can change some things when you're in your style sheets and get it to, you can use the rotate function to have his face go from a smile maybe to a frown. You can change that. You can have him rotate a whole 360 degrees. You can change what axis he rotates on. So you could have him jump upside down and flip back around, do a full somersault possibly. If you did a whole 360 rotate on a X, I think rotate X would do that. Add that. X, and we'll just try with 360 degrees. Just see what happens there. Oh, there's too many commands. Is why. I had him do it in one of my tests. Or perhaps the animation is not currently long enough. So basically what you can do is just play around with this and try different things. And that's basically the Maker Night tonight. Did you guys have fun? Do you guys want to do anything else? I'm just going to stop my share here. So, yes, all right, Simon. Oh, look at him. I love the colors you chose. He's like a spooky zombie type. I like him. I like it. It looks like an evil minion. Yes. All right, so if we want to just take a look at this bouncing ball, we'll do a little bit of a refresher and just sort of a once-over of what we did today. So we'll go back to our style sheets. I'm just going to close these ones that we were just working on. Reopen that bouncing ball, open our style sheet. I'm just going to delete this because this doesn't belong here. And we're going to open our index. So our index for the bouncing ball. I broke my light. There we go. So the index, I have to stop touching it with my feet. That's my problem. The index that we have a layer for the ID, layer _1. But what we accessed with this one was we built that class that was called ball bounce. I'm just going to copy this and paste this to you, Brad. There you go. So that's that. And then when we looked at our style sheet, we did some very, very super simple CSS animation to it. So we decided on a height for the ball. We decided on our animation name when we made our keyframes. We called it bounce because that's what our animation is going to be doing. So when you're deciding on your naming, try not to name things like banana or orange unless it's specifically accessing a banana or an orange. I remember I did a whole project for Jarrett Wright and did everything regarding noodles and spaghetti. It was very confusing with my naming concepts once I got to the end of it because I didn't really understand what am I calling meatballs or am I calling spaghetti? What was I doing? So naming conventions are really important when it comes to doing your coding. We've also got our animation duration. So we did our index, which had our fantastic SVG that was already in there. And then all that we did to that was we added our class. Then we went to our style sheets. We gave it a height. We called our animation. We told our animation how long it was going to play for. And we told the animation that it was going to be on a continuous infinite loop. So if you would only like it to count 10, do 10 loops, you can choose to do only 10 loops. I chose for the bounce, we did it at 50%, but we can also do this bounce at 20%. And our 90 pixels could be 100 pixels. And then when we refresh our bouncing ball, the ball bounces really quickly when it goes up and comes down a little slower. I'm not sure if that's how gravity works, but that's kind of how a bouncing ball works. So you can choose what to do. I hope you guys really enjoyed this and that it was helpful for you guys. Yes, naming conventions are very important. Let me just head. So for our final little thing here, I've listed some of my favorite resources that I like to use, which are Stack Overflow. So if you're having trouble with something, try taking a block of that code and searching and saying why, basically. Stack Overflow is great for especially really peculiar problems when you start getting into the heavier code. Also, for especially for CSS and HTML, W3 Schools is going to be one of your best friends. It is one of my favorite coding go-tos when it comes to websites. I've done hovers, I've done all sorts of things and used that. And of course, for free tutorials on how to do all sorts of stuff, you can try YouTube. And now that you guys have dipped your toes in the water, you know how to do a few things, you can use YouTube tutorials and continue to grow what you've learned today. So a summary of our class today, we made a ball bounce. We learned about keyframes and targeting a whole object. Then we went and we looked around. So we used translate Y and translate X, and we learned how to target a specific part of an animation, like of the SVG. So instead of making the whole animation move, we were able to make sure that we selected just the eyeballs. And then we animated a walk, and you guys showed off your work by animating a character that I made, which I was really happy and excited to see. So I would like to thank you all for joining me today. We will be having another one next week at the same time for the same projects. So if you have friends who want to try it and they want to come next week, and we have a waiting list as well, you can definitely stay tuned and we'll do another one. Place your comments and suggestions for extra maker nights that you want to do in the coming weeks, in the coming months. And feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the chat so that you guys can let me know of stuff that you're really interested in or want to know how to do or just test some stuff out. We'll probably see if we can do a Unity night. It's a little bit more difficult to do troubleshooting when we're online, but we'll see how we can work that out. And place your comments and suggestions. And then of course, follow us on our social media because this is where we post all our fun events. So we've got Instagram at GCHBEC. We've got the Henry Burdick Entrepreneurship Center on Facebook. And then we have GCHBEC also on Twitter. And we also have a YouTube channel which has the Henry Burdick Entrepreneurship Center. All our information, coffee talks, a whole bunch of information on how you guys can build jobs. If you guys would like to start your own business and you have a couple of friends, we've had lots of programming students who have built games. They've built whole companies. They've done marketing and like data, a whole bunch of different careers that they've built for themselves that weren't reliant on having to go out and get a job, but they built their own jobs. So it's really awesome. And I'd be really excited to see if you guys were interested in that. Yes, we will have the Makerspace back. I have a video somewhere. Probably show it really poorly here. But we have a floor and we have a space. Ooh, a maker night on Flexbox and the grid. That's a good idea. Yeah, so if you want recommended resources for learning SVG, I definitely will say to check out W3 Schools and YouTube. I have a Skillshare subscription, so I can look up anything that I would like to learn. I learn something new almost every week. Just looking for a pen. Yeah. Okay. Brad, we'll look at it in a little bit. So yeah, so YouTube is definitely great. You can find a lot of really great videos. And then W3 Schools is probably the best way. And then I put some links earlier in the chat. These guys here. So I found a lot of really cool things on CSS Tricks. They have a whole bunch of different ways to animate. So this is just one of the many like blog/articles that they've done, but they show you how to like build starting in your SVG and then actually saving it as an SVG, and then you get to see what it looks like. And then you can clean up the SVG and give shapes classes so that you can sort of shrink down how large the code is. So if I were in my Atom, if I were in this index, you can sort of like shrink them down like that. But instead of doing that, you would give them like, this is the style, this is the group. So different groups, and you're able to actually look at them. So that's what I've done with these is I made it so that they were named and you could easily find them. So back arm hair, blue body. It's a naming convention that you use in Illustrator. And I'm always happy to do lots of these maker nights. I was really excited about doing one because we haven't had one in such a long time, and we didn't know how to get it online. And I'm really glad that we were able to do this. And yes, we'll make sure that we can get e-building will be back when we get back to the college. Whenever the government says it is safe to do so, we'll be back there and it'll be great. Good night for tensors, flow, and pi. Yes. Just writing down your ideas here. JavaScript sliders. Okay, and then we also had Flexbox and Grid. Flexbox and Grid. Super fun. Yay, Ivan's works. This is awesome. Okay, so I'm glad you guys all enjoyed this tonight. I'm going to call this a wrap. I'm gonna stop my share and we can all say hello and goodbye to each other. I am so glad you were able to join me tonight, and I look forward to either seeing you next week if you want to see the same thing, or in 2 weeks or so when I build the next Maker Night. So awesome. All right, bye guys. You can turn on your mics to say bye if you want, or you can leave them off.
I still need help with the bouncy ball. I edited the style sheet, but it's still not bouncing.
All right, let's take a look. Brad, you can share your screen and we'll take a look at it.
Okay, just give me a moment.
No problem.
Okay, so basically I've got the naming convention correct. I got the animation name, duration, and iteration count. Oh, hang on a second. I think I might have found the problem. Is that double add again? Just give me 1 second.
No problem.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Okay, it is slowly bouncing. Yes, thank you. Well, I'll sign off. I have to help my parents set up dinner, but thank you so much, and I look forward to the next Maker Night.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys. And feel free to email me at virginia.barlow. It's just my name at Georgian College, just like your teacher's stuff is. And we can make more awesome nights. Thanks, guys.